Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, 𝑤𝒐𝒐 with my co-host, 𝑗𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒈. Welcome, Joel.
Morning.
And today's special guest is 𝑑𝒍𝒑𝒕𝒕𝒍𝒆. Diz is the founder and CEO of LiquiDonate. So welcome to the show, Diz.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Before we get into your company, though, could we talk a little bit about your background? Because you have a remarkable technology background.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. So prior to starting LiquiDonate, I was a 15th employee at Postmates. And for those listeners who might not know what Postmates is, it's a food delivery app. And it was one of the first. So when I was employee 15 at Postmates, it was back in 2013. I started off running our customer service team, and that was what I was really good at, customer service, making sure that people had what they wanted. But with the way that our company worked with Postmates, it was actually more of an operations team. So we were the ones who were actually calling in and placing the orders, figuring out where the courier should go, like how are we handling customer issues. The phone could ring and it could be anybody, any of the three customers. So it was actually like a pretty advanced operation in terms of what we were doing for customer support, which gave a lot of people the opportunity to kind of start their career in customer service and then grow into other roles that were more operationally based. And at LiquiDonate, we actually have a number of those folks that are working with us now. So it's been awesome to see that journey. But while I was at Postmates, I also helped to start the sales team. And so I helped to sign the first 500 restaurants to the platform, helped to develop the merchant tablet, which is the tablet that most third-party delivery services still use today, where I would actually go and work shifts at restaurants to understand how the employee at the restaurant was actually interacting with these tablets so that we weren't building something that just totally sucked for them. Like if you think about this thing, it's just beeping in your ear for, 10 minutes and you can't push the button because you're wearing a glove, then we need to make that button a tactile button, one that you can actually physically press versus one that's just digital on the screen. And so those types of like small learnings that you only get in person were something that I was passionate about, making sure we were building into the product. And I think ultimately it's what helped the company get acquired by Uber. But right before the acquisition by Uber, I started our social impact team, which is what I'm super passionate about. And my now co-founder of LiquiDonate and I, we built two products while we were at Postmates. The first one was called Food Fight. And Food Fight enabled all the restaurants that we worked with to just press a button and have us come pick up their excess food and take it to local shelters in 800 cities around the US. And then the second product we built was called Bento, and that one is still live today. And what Bento does is that for folks who don't have access to a smartphone, they can just text the word hungry to a specific phone number, and they'll get a free meal from the nearest Postmates pickup restaurant that is paid for on the back end by a foundation that we partnered with. And for that one, we won the Time Magazine Invention of the Year award. So those were two products that Chai, my co-founder of LiquiDonate now, and I built. After the acquisition by Uber, I was there for a few months, wasn't the best fit for me, so decided to leave and get started with LiquiDonate.
And doing remarkable things. I mean, the humanitarian efforts that you've done are remarkable. That's why I wanted you to tell your background, because it is very unique what you've done and selfless. So I think that's very important.
It's not totally selfless. I just want to be clear. I think that there is a big place in for there to recognize the impact, the positive impact that technology can have if we're routing it in the appropriate directions. So while I'm doing this because I think it's the right thing to do, I also think that having learned what I learned at Postmates and at the Apple Store before that, and like any of my previous jobs before that, all of those things kind of led to being like, okay, there is a way for social media has changed the world, right? Facebook has changed the world, whether you like it or not. And so if you think about that and the impact that this thing that this person or this group of people invented and came up with, it changed the way that we communicate on a massive scale. Think about the iPhone as well. And so with these different technologies, we're implementing them to support consumers, which is fine. That is what it is. And so if we can take that technology and figure out ways that we can actually help nonprofits in schools and folks that are actually doing some of the life-saving work that happens in the world, then we should really be focused on that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Absolutely. And you are doing good. I mean, the programs you're building are helping people. So going over to Liquid Donate, most people don't realize how much waste is generated in the retail world.
Yes.
And even though I preach to the choir, please stop buying you things you do not need with money you do not have to impress people you do not like, it's still happening. But you are helping solve that problem. Could you explain what Liquid Donate is?
Yeah, so our team at Liquid Donate is taking all of the excess inventory in the world and matching it with nonprofits. So the way that we do that is that we work with retailers to match all of their returned inventory directly with the nonprofits who need it. So instead of having a customer return from their home, go 10,000 miles or 1,000 miles to another state in order for it to be returned at a distribution center, for someone to handle it, for them to take a look at it, for them to throw it in a pile in the corner, and then ultimately for them to put it in the landfill, the retailer is paying money for all of those steps of that process. And so we actually stop it at the customer's home. And when the retailer knows that that product just isn't going to be resold, it's not resellable for whatever reason, then it automatically gets routed to a nonprofit using our technology. So we're transiting it 10 miles versus 1,000 miles, and saving the retailer money, obviously having a positive environmental impact. And when 80% of returns end up in the landfill anyway, we're able to stop all of that unnecessary transit and cost at the very beginning of the process.
I don't think most people understand that when things are returned, they do just get thrown out.
Yep, 80% of the time.
It's remarkable. And Joel, I know Joel's part of a 501c3, so very important to have things donated rather than having to put funds out for buying it. So Joel, from your perspective of being a nonprofit, thoughts on this?
No, I think it's actually brilliant, and I'm actually surprised that it's not happening already. Like, that kind of floors me. I guess my question is like, when are companies, if the companies that are working with you, are they using you as a marketing tool for them?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that seems to like the no-brainer right there.
Yeah, I mean, the no-brainer for the retailers is that we directly impact their bottom line in a positive way. We save them money. And so that is number one. We save them money. And then step two is that we provide data and analytics, as well as some storytelling opportunities for them, so that if they want to use the information that we've provided for marketing or their ESG reputation or their sustainability reporting, we help with all of those things as well. But number one, the number one reason why retailers come in the door is because they have excess inventory. They don't know what to do with it. They would prefer not to landfill it, and they are looking for an alternative.
Now, is this happening just with returns, or if there's like stuff that doesn't sell and like say it's clothing and the seasons change, do you get that stuff also?
We do, yeah. So we have a bulk program for those items.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What made you want to do this route?
Well, I think when we saw the amount of food that was being wasted, I think the number right now is about 40% of food in the United States is thrown in the trash, like good usable food. And that number is huge. And when there's people hungry and starving, it's really upsetting to see that type of waste. And so outside of food, though, my parents have worked in retail. I've worked in retail, and we've just seen the amount of returns that we get. And there's been a number of reports from BBC Earth to the New York Times talking about retail's dirty secret, which is all of these returns ending up in the landfill. So taking food, which is one of the most difficult categories to move, and transitioning to a company where we would be able to move all of the excess inventory in the world and be category agnostic was the next step. So it was like, we could move food. We did Food Fight. That was great. And now what are we able to do is we're able to match all of this excess inventory in the world with the nonprofits that need it. And I've been an activist since I was 16. And so for me, being a part of the nonprofit world, the mutual aid world, just knowing that there is a sense of community amongst the different nonprofits and that they do need access to free items. I've worked in a nonprofit. I've seen how we have to split up the budget because we don't want to spend money on things that aren't programmatic costs because the donors have made those restricted funds, and so they can't be used for certain things. And when a venture capital firm is willing to give a tech company millions of dollars and say, hey, go fund your idea, make it work, they give, a lot of them give you free choice over how that money is spent. and to not have nonprofits have that same access to capital with the same level of freedom, it is really frustrating. And so we're trying to equal that playing field a little bit by saying, hey, like we can donate, 20 tables that are really nice. They're in new or like new condition. They're coming from another office that they don't need anymore. And so now you can get these 20 tables donated. We'll deliver them. And now you can take the money that you are going to spend on these 20 tables, which can be in the thousands and the tens of thousands of dollars, and you can now spend that on something else that you're able to spend your capital on. So we're trying to take away those excess costs for the nonprofit as well, while making sure that these products stay in use and not in the landfill.
So I want to talk about Food Fight really quick, because I think that one was freaking genius. I love that. But is that still running?
It is not. There is a program at DoorDash that is doing food security work that is in a similar space.
It seems like that one. I love that idea of just people donating, their restaurants donating the food at the end of the night. I mean, all this stuff is going to waste. Whether, like you're saying, it's the furniture, it's the donations, it's anything. It's like there's always somebody who needs it.
Yeah, and we also do handle food with Liquidonate. It's just not our bread and butter.
Pun intended. It's funny, Joel, you bring up the restaurant food, because, Joel and I met in Boston when we were students. And there was a law, I don't know if it's still in the books, but at the time, any restaurant food had to be destroyed, could not be given to a shelter because they didn't want to get sued. That was on the books. Because I knew people that worked in restaurants and they had to physically destroy the food.
I have heard this, pray tell, but there is actually a federal statute that protects all donors from any liability when they're donating food. It's called the Bill Emerson Act. And so if you're donating food in good faith, you're 100% protected. And in the history of the United States, as far as the last time that I checked, which was about a year ago, there have been 0 lawsuits in the US from people having liability issues around food that was donated. So I think even if Boston did enact that, I believe the federal statute would have overridden it. But I think the problem that we found with talking to restaurants about Food Fight and trying to get them to press the button is that everyone has an Uncle Joe, Fred 5 times removed, who had a restaurant who got sued, right? There is this like story that has kind of been passed down. And so there is some debunking and education that we did try to do around the Bill Emerson Act and the fact that there have been actually 0 lawsuits. So I think it is interesting, and it's something that I hope we can continue to change and remove the stigma around in our culture.
And also just keeping the food out of the landfills, which a lot of methane gas. Sorry, Joel, go.
But do you also find that, like, when you're talking to these companies about donating the stuff that they don't use or the returns, do you have to explain to them the financial impact? Because I would assume for, like, whether it's a restaurant, they're thinking, okay, now I have to find the person who's going to box it up at the end of the night and get everything organized. And the same with the returns. Like, okay, great. Now, so it's kind of like you're trying to ask people to change their mentality and the way that their companies have structured, but explain to them this will be cheaper for you in the long run and do good.
So we actually don't expect anyone to change their consumer behavior. That was something that we learned while we were at Postmates, right? Is the food that was being donated at the end of the night was food that was unpicked up orders. So it was already boxed up in to-go boxes and bags ready to go.
Okay.
Or it was produce that was going to be able to be just like tossed in a bag and picked up by the courier. And as someone who's worked in a restaurant before, I know that when 9 p.m. rolls around and it's time to lock the door and get out of there, you still have to sweep, you still have to mop, you have to clean the bathrooms, you have to do all these additional tasks. The last thing that you want is someone coming in and making extra work for you. And so we worked directly with the restaurants to ask them what would be ideal for you. And what we ended up coming up with is that the Food Fight button shows up 30 minutes before they close the doors, and it would send the courier within that 30-minute time frame. So if you are a restaurant that closes at 9 p.m., at 8:30 p.m., the button would show up. You could press it. The courier would come within 30 minutes. So they have a bit of a window to get there, pick up the food, and it's still during the time where the door is unlocked. You're not in the back already doing something else. And most of the folks who work in the restaurants, at least the ones that we talk to, are more than happy to see the food not go to waste.
Is it the same kind of principle for the returns?
For the returns, we actually have it. the same way. The customer who's doing the e-commerce return, what happens is that what Liquid Donate is that our product has three main components. The first one is a donation as a service API. And so our API is actually able to integrate with websites and return services on their checkout flow and on their return flow. And so so then the second component, since I'm getting ahead of myself, is that we have a matching algorithm. So we're building the largest database of nonprofits and schools in the world, as well as other circular economy partners. And so we're able to find a match for the product instantly. And then the third component of our product is that we also handle the fulfillment logistics. So from our experience at Postmates, helping to build out last mile delivery, we are able to handle the fulfillment through integrations. So whether you need the item picked up for free, you want us to ship it at cost to you, or you want us to have it delivered at cost to you, we can handle those. So free option and then two paid options. And so with the product, when the customer goes online and they're like, hey, I want to place a return, they go to the website, they're like, click return. They give a reason from a drop-down menu that the retailer said on why they want to return the item, right? And then at that point, that's when the magic happens. And the retailers rules that they have set, they have choice in this, will say, hey, we don't want this item back to our distribution center. We're most likely going to destroy it, or we're definitely going to destroy it. Therefore, send it to a nonprofit instead. And so when that determination is made, our API calls to our database and it says, hey, what's the nearest nonprofit to this customer's home that wants this product? And based on our database, we're actually able to show the shipping label directly for the nonprofit. And so the consumer actually has no idea unless they look at the shipping label on if it's going back to a distribution center that may or may not be owned by the retailer itself, or if it's going to a nonprofit. They just get a shipping label, they print it out, they put it on the box, they take it back to the post office, and boom, everything is exactly the same as they would have processed a traditional return.
Now I have to ask, who are some of the retailers you're working with?
Yeah, so we're the national donation partner for Room and Board. And so, of course, we did food at Postmates, which is the most difficult thing to move. And then we did furniture, which is the second most difficult thing to move. So we have tackled a lot of the really difficult stuff early on. And so now when we get like Bombas socks donated, we're like, oh yes, this is so easy. But yeah, Room and Board is one of our biggest partners. We love working with them.
That's
and
awesome.
I think the coolest thing is that they have actually integrated us into their sustainability story. And so they actually have sustainability goals that we have now been built into. So they want 90% of their products to be able to be considered sustainable, and they have lists of rules around that. And what happens when you buy something from Room and Board, which is a very nice furniture company,
very nice,
and you have it delivered and it's a glass top and a geometric iron table base, but the glass breaks? The customer doesn't really want that product anymore. And so now back at the distribution center, they have just the iron base. What are they going to do with that? Prior to Liquid Donate and what other companies are doing today, they would throw it in the trash because there was nothing that they could do with it. It's just an iron base. There's literally like, what are you going to do with it? And so now we're able to take those items and match them with a nonprofit that can fix the product, find a different use for it. And then we also work with circular economy partners. So we actually just had a really incredible conversation yesterday with a new company that is able to take plastic, melt it down. It's a whole process that I don't understand, but they turn it into 3D printer ink.
Oh, no.
And then with this 3D printer ink, you're able to tell them exactly like, hey, like we need a hexagonal tabletop with these dimensions, and they can print a new tabletop for these products out of plastic that otherwise would be living in the landfill forever. And it's just so brilliant on like how we can fix these problems and how all of these different folks are working together on this issue. So
I love the fact you're working with so many different industries to make this happen. That's fabulous.
Yeah, because a lot of nonprofits don't want to. They're like, we don't have time to deal with just a table base and figuring out a top for it. That's fine. Some do. I mean, we work with a lot of maker spaces, which are a lot of different nonprofits, and their students are excited about figuring out different ways to make cool tabletops out of puzzle pieces, just like weird stuff. It's just awesome. But being able to provide a very specific piece would is also ideal.
But I would imagine as you're meeting with these companies and you're hearing about this cool stuff, that this actually keeps you inspired, because we all get burnt out. Let's just be honest. No matter what you're doing, at some point you're like, oh God, I'm tired. But you're talking to new people and you're seeing all this new stuff. Like, that has to just give you this motivation, or that winning, I hate saying winning yourself, but you know what I mean? To just keep going forward, because you don't know who you're going to meet next and what cool invention you're going to see.
Exactly. I mean, the woman I talked to yesterday with this invention, I mean, she couldn't have been more than 25 years old. And I'm just like,
this is rude.
And I'm just like, the world is so amazing. Like, it's too bad that we've gotten to this point where climate change is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
It's potentially at a point where we can't reverse the damage, and now we're just working to mitigate it. Like, all of that is really awful, and I think it's easy to get down and depressed and sad. And like, but for me, I'm like, okay, well, this job and this company and this work I feel like we're on the brink of a new way that people think about stuff. And I think if we can be a part of that and thinking about how we can actually like reuse and repurpose products, I mean, what a legacy that would be to leave, is like actually doing something positive where we're able to make a big difference. We're able to help smaller businesses that are doing some of this really, really cool cutting edge circular economy work, like help them get off the ground, because we can provide them free plastic. Like, that's a boon for them. And then it also helps us, because sometimes we do end up with products that are just completely unusable for their original intention. So in those cases, it's really good to be able to help out, and it helps us too. So it's definitely a cycle.
All right, so I have one more question for you, and then I'll shut up. So you mentioned legacy. Where do you see Liquidonate, and where would you like to see Liquidonate in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I want us to be as big as Amazon.
Okay, fair.
So right now, Amazon, everyone orders on Amazon. It's the bane of my existence, and you just see it constantly, right? And there's all these boxes and all this packaging and all these workers and all, like, there's this whole system behind Amazon, right? And it's all based on getting people new stuff that I think Wendy would say they most likely don't need.
Don't need all the crap you think you do.
And so for me, it's like, what if we could be that big, but for the returns industry? I really don't believe we're going to change consumer behavior. And so right now we're working with a lot of small, medium-sized businesses that are using our services because they want to do the right thing. They want to save money. Their margins are just being completely crushed by returns. Like, this is a real use case now. But think about when Walmart or Target or Costco, the size and scale of those businesses at the enterprise level that need this service and eventually will work with them as well. You know, it'll be huge. It'll just be this huge network of people kind of trading between each other all of these different products, so that we're not continuously putting new products in use.
Although Room and Board is not a small or medium-sized company, so I'll say you're actually doing pretty good already.
Yeah. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, we the enterprise world, you know, Target, Amazon, Walmart. I mean, those are the ones where it's we work. One of our other customers is Pillow Cube. You know? And I mean, we love them. Shout out to Steve if you're watching. We love Steve. But yeah, they're just so cool. Like, they're just like, you know, we don't have a good solution to get these pillows donated, and we don't accept them as returns. So like, we tell the customer to donate them, but most people, if you tell them, hey, why don't you go to a volunteer event this week? They're going to be like, I don't know where to find one. I don't know how to get there. There's some anxiety about going for the first time. And so it's the same thing with like telling someone, oh, you can donate this product. It's like, yeah, I could, but I don't know where to start. I don't have time. I just want my money back, which is
also fine. It becomes different when you're talking about certain things that are deemed personal items, like whether it's like bedding or pillows or things. A lot of places, they just won't take them, or you're told they won't take them. You know, there's a conception that a lot of places won't.
There is a conception. And so for new and like new products with our marketplace, we just share the details of the product with the nonprofit. And so then it's their call to make the decision on whether or not they'd like to use that product. But a lot of the time, the boxes aren't even opened.
Can people go onto, sorry, I have one more question. Can people go onto your website and find places to make donations as well? Like, I mean, say like they're not, okay.
Next, yeah, so they have a shop.
Yeah, we have a community platform. So if you, Joel, you, Wendy, you individual person watching, if you have 1 or 2 items that you want to donate in your community, then you go to our website, 𝑙iquidDonate.com/donate. You type in the name of the item, the condition of it, and then your address and phone number. And then once that gets ordered by a community member or a nonprofit, you get access to our whole nonprofit network, but it could also just be someone in your neighborhood that wants that product. Then you'll get a text message, and that text message will mask your phone number. So you won't be, it'll automatically mask it. So your personal number will not be revealed to the recipient. And then on that text thread, you just type in, hey, this is Joel. When do you want to come pick up the item? The person will respond in that same SMS text message thread and say, hey, I can come Thursday at 4 p.m. Does that work? You say, yep. And then you do the handoff of that product wherever you decide is the best fit to do that. And so the community platform is completely free. And if you are a retailer, there is a cost for you to upload because you're going to be uploading more than 1 item at a time. But the community platform is like a good alternative to something like Goodwill, where 40% of those items end up in the landfill anyway.
And they don't pay their people a fair wage. I'll leave it at that. There's a lot with that. But you helping people. So how can people get in touch with you or get involved, or, you know, we went through the donations, but how can people find you? What's the best way?
So our website is great. You can email me directly, diz@liquidonate.com, DIZ. In case you didn't pick up on it, it's liquidate and donate in one word, liquidonate. Yeah, you can just send me an email. We're also on all the social medias at liquidonate, Twitter, Instagram, etc. We'd love to chat with you all there. And the other thing is that we're hiring for sales folks. So people who are interested in working directly with retailers and getting them to sign up to use our platform so that we can continue to drive additional donations. And yeah, we're over 5 million in less than 2 years, 5 million items donated. So it's a big problem that we're trying to solve.
That's fantastic. That 5 million, and you haven't been up and running for all that long.
Less than 2 years.
Wow.
So you're growing as fast. You're growing very quickly. You will be the Amazon shortly.
Yeah, the Amazon for return donations. Yes.
For return donations and circular economy.
Exactly.
So I'll let you go on that. I love what you're doing. I love Liquid Donate. I love everything you're doing to help keep things out of landfills where they don't belong, because there is no away. When someone says we're throwing something away, there is no away. It's just you no longer see it. Someone else does. So thank you, Diz. Please, guys, check out Liquid Donate. Great organizations. Donate your items. Shop on their site. You might get some really good stuff. I mean, sounds like you've got good stuff coming in all the time. So on that, thank you. I am Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice, with my co-host Joel Vendette. Thank you again, Diz. Always a pleasure. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Take care, guys.